Hey everybody, today I wanted to share my reaction to the shifts that apparently are happening in states, especially about my state, Texas, and how we're using the science of reading. So I teach, older students, and I was also at one time the former junior high dean of instruction. So I'm really excited to see that we're thinking about literacy as more than something of just an early elementary issue. And I'm excited to see progress, right? So let me tell you about the two things that I really noted from the articles. So the first article by Schwartz in 2023 talked about science of reading, right? And it's kind of a ubiquitous buzzword now. District leaders, legislatures, curriculum people, they all use it. And that's fantastic. I mean, you've got to talk about it amongst the professionals before it will finally trickle down to everybody else and get momentum going. And the good thing is, we're pushing the program, but perhaps inconsistently, and it could be just a buzzword without anything to back it up if we don't get some clarity. So what are the core components that we need to pull out of science of reading? That article, or maybe it was the other one, talked about states with reading laws, and it really graded them on what kind of supports that they used, right? For teacher training, intervention, funding. When districts have those items, then it works. But there were lots of states that didn't have the funding to pass these measures. So they passed the laws, but there's no money for training or for support or for new curriculum. And then we're not really working well. So crafting policy, it's very important, but by itself it's not sufficient, because states that embed development and ongoing coaching and intervention for struggling readers have better outcomes. I know literacy is something we're going to work on for our whole lives. It's not just early elementary. And one thing that was interesting for me is teaching vocabulary and more world knowledge and background information on the subject. I've really changed the way I'm teaching public speaking now by including vocabulary. I was standing by the copiers this week, and my department chair said, "You're teaching vocabulary?" Because apparently no one does it. And I'm not teaching just vocabulary related to my field. Since I'm teaching dual credit, I'm really working with high schoolers, and we're trying to drill in those Greek and Latin SAT words. So here in Texas, let me just tell you what's been going on with our science of reading. So back in 2019, we passed a law. Everybody in K-12, administrators and principals have to go through a science of teaching reading academy, and we did an exam. However, y'all, the National Council on Teacher Quality evaluates teacher prep programs. And of the 51 programs they looked at here in Texas, only 27% had a grade A literacy program. So the components aren't being shared with all of our new teachers, and that's scary. Some key takeaways that I would put in just a little bullet list would be that, hey, clarity and fidelity matter. You can't just say science of reading without knowing what it means and using it appropriately. But support matters as well. Pass all the laws you want, but without support, they're not going to be done. Also, teachers need ownership and voice. One of the articles talked about that some teachers, including those in Texas in 2023, said, hey, we don't like that you're taking out cueing, because that's a part of how we learn. If you're going to want to change somebody's pedagogy and still treat them as a professional, that is a fine line to walk. And then finally, systems matter. You've got to have a thing in place, from teacher training programs to onboarding, implementation, support, all throughout. So yeah, the science of reading movement is getting real policy traction here. States are enacting laws, they do teacher training, investing in materials, but the challenge is across the board, fully funded implementation. States are moving forward, but if you can't translate policy into practice, then I'm not sure if we're going to accomplish our goals.